Hello everyone and welcome to another Motorcycling Australia Women's Committee Women in Motorcycling interview. We have the extremely talented and cool trials rider Kristie McKinnon with us today. Hello Kristie.
Hey.
So Kristie has a super long history in the sport. She's got her fingers in a lot of different pies, but her main background is trials. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to in the sport at the moment, Kristie.
Well, I guess a lot like everyone at the moment, not up to a whole lot. The last season was kind of basically cancelled, and they haven't really kicked off too much yet this year. So just a lot of practice at home at the moment. Hoping that this year will be a better year for competition.
Definitely. So how many years have you been competing in trials?
That's a good one. I think probably 15, I'm guessing. Yeah.
And so you compete in state, Australian and world championships, don't you?
Yeah, that's correct. Obviously nothing overseas last year and not looking very likely for this year, but yeah, generally do as much as I can. I've just kind of moved to northern New South Wales now, so I'm hoping to do the Queensland as well as the New South Wales state titles and Australian championships, and then hopefully once the world opens back up again we can get back over to do some more world rounds.
So tell us a little bit about the World Trials Championships, because I believe it's a teams event, is that right?
No, there's two separate. So the World Trials Championships, they have a girls class they usually run 3 to 5 rounds in the year, and it's ran in conjunction with the men's World Championship. And yeah, but it's just basically at 3 to 5 of the men's rounds that they have a women's class run with it. And then the teams event is the Trial of Nations. So at Trial of Nations, we have usually a team of 3 girls. Each nation sends a team of 3 girls, and used to be 4 guys, but in the last couple of years they've taken that back to 3 girls and 3 guys. Okay,
and you girls have had some success, haven't you, as Team Australia at the Trials of Nations?
We've done all right. I don't know that I would quote me on this, but I think that our best result at some point we got 6th. That was a few years ago. We obviously haven't done anywhere near as good as the Australian women's enduro team, who's absolutely kick butt every time they go over. But yeah, no, we've done all right considering we've never really had a really good experienced team. I'm probably the only rider that's consistently gone, and every couple of years we take a couple of new riders over, so it's quite hard to compete against the Europeans. Trials is a really big sport over there, and as most people know, it's not very big here in Australia. So
yeah, for sure. So can you tell us actually a little bit more about trials, so what it involves and how you got into it as well?
Yeah, trials is basically it's an observed form of motorcycle competition. So they section off little areas and they'll have arrows for different classes or grades, and each class or grade follows their own color arrow from one end to the other, and you're observed while you're riding in that section. So instead of being done on time, it's actually done on your score for your ability to ride from one point to another. And it's kind of a bit like golf scoring, so the lowest score wins. Maximum points you can get for one area is a 5. So if you crash or stall the bike, you get 5 points. And then if you put your feet down, you get 1 point for each time you put your foot down, up until 3. And then basically you can put your foot down 3 times or 33 times, it's still a 3. So yeah, I think that kind of gives you a quick rundown on how the whole scoring system works. But yeah, basically it's just an observed form of motorcycle competition. The bikes have kind of evolved a bit over the years, and now trials bikes don't have seats because they're designed, I guess, to try and ride in the most awful of terrain. So when you do need to put your foot down, it's usually not in a very convenient spot. So their design has changed a fair bit. They've got a whole lot more torque than your standard motorcycle, and they're a whole lot lighter.
Definitely. And so how did you get into trials?
Yeah, I kind of got into trials because my mum was doing it. I was doing my apprenticeship. I did an apprenticeship with Qantas, and I had moved out of home, was living in the city, didn't have a whole lot of money, still had a WR250 at home that like when I went home I'd have a ride on or whatever, but wasn't doing any competition or anything. And my mum and dad had started riding trials, so I just went along to a couple of events and walked around with them and helped them out, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool, wouldn't mind starting this. And was actually watching them at an event at Pacific Park, which is a motorcycle park in Western Sydney, and got talking to the guys there, and they were really keen on trials as well, and they're like, oh, well, you should come out and ride with us in your spare time. So I started going out there and riding with those guys and just got hooked.
Okay, so how old were you then?
I was 20.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, the usual story is rode a bit when I was a kid and my dad got me into it. I've never heard someone say my mum got me into it. So yeah. And yeah, starting at 20 as well. So I don't remember the exact year, but 2006, 2007 was my first Australian 4-day enduro, and we were on the same minute. So we've also done at least that one Australian championship in enduro. And you also do so that's normal trials that you compete in, but then you do the freestyle trials with Jack Field and his setup and crew. And I feel like I've seen you do some stunt stuff on a road bike once or twice as well. So can you tell us a bit more about the other things in motorcycling that you do outside of trials?
Yeah, that's right. I'm a bit of a fan of two wheels or one wheel, you know, whatever. So, yeah, I've raced a little bit of enduro. Obviously I rode the 4-day with you. Was that down in Bateman's Bay? Gosh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I sort of actually grew up riding just normal dirt bikes on the family farm and with lots of relatives and stuff like that and friends of the family. So I'd done quite a bit of enduro as a kid anyway. So I still have, I've got a KTM 250 these days, but I still like to get out on it and have a bit of fun, and starting to ride a couple of the hard enduros around as well, finding that that's a bit of fun too. So doing as much of that as what I can. And yeah, I rode in the couple of enduro cross series that we had here in Australia. That was a whole lot of fun. I even went to the States. Actually, it was Jack Field and his partner Rihanna that talked me into going over to the States and riding a couple of the American enduro cross rounds, and from that ended up getting an invite to ride in X Games. So yeah, just basically I'll follow any opportunity. I love riding bikes. So and yeah, it was Jack and Rihanna again that got me into doing a little bit of stunt stuff on the road bikes, and it's just all good fun. I like a challenge, and yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I forgot actually about the enduro cross, and that, yeah, you went over to X Games as well, which would have been such a cool experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was fantastic. X Games was just brilliant. It was in Austin in Texas, which was just like a mad spot, and yeah, got to meet lots of the idols that I grew up kind of watching on TV and stuff like that. So that was cool. And we stayed at a friend of Jack and Rihanna's place, and it was just like this epic mansion that was overlooking the lake at Austin. And yeah, it was just the funnest week. Unfortunately, I had a few bike problems on the day. I think Jack and Christine spent a couple of days leading into X Games trying to get my bike going. But yeah, it was a great event, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity and got to meet all the people over there and got to see what it was all about. And, I think that was the last time they ran enduro cross at X Games for the girls, which is a shame because it would have been real good to go back over there. And
yeah, definitely gnarly tracks though, hey? Like they look gnarly on TV, so I can't imagine seeing it up close and personal.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more fun like that. Obviously, with a bit of trials background, the harder the track, the better for me. Actually, not really that fast. So yeah, like I said, when the tracks get more technical, that really suits my riding a whole lot more. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was great.
When you said a moment ago that you've been doing a few hard enduros for a bit of fun, I thought only a trials rider would say that. And when we did have the couple years of the Australian Enduro Cross Series, yeah, I was petrified and I sucked and I hurt myself constantly. And you just, were you on a free ride for that actually?
I rode a Kristie all drive in one, and then the second year I rode the KTM free ride, and that machine was magic. Like, I would, if they still made the 252 stroke one of them today, I would have one. They were such an awesome little bike, like so light, easy to throw around, and yeah, such a good little piece of machinery.
Yeah, I definitely remember you, just tackling everything a lot smoother and with more confidence than what I was just bashing my way through things. So yeah, definitely got some more skill than me. So you are up at Coffs Harbour now, living there and enjoying the super wet weather that is happening at the moment. And I noticed that as soon as you got on the Zoom that you're wearing a Coffs Harbour 8-hour Transmoto shirt. Oh, yeah. So yeah, also done a few Transmotos in your time, yeah?
Yeah, well, actually only done one Transmoto. Had an opportunity last year because I'd moved up here to Coffs to go on a team and ride at Transmoto at Yulong, so just down the road, and ended up on a team of 4 girls actually. So we had a whole lot of fun. It was a blast. We just took turns. We each did a lap each and swapped over, and yeah, it was such a fun event. It was so social, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, they are really, really fun events, and that's cool that you're on a team of all girls, because definitely more girls should have a crack at Transmotos, because it's a race, but it's not a race. Hey, you can really take it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, 100%. You take it as serious as you want to, or you can just be as relaxed as you want to. The guys there, it's super chill. It's not really officious. They make sure that the rules are all followed, but they're not hounding on you. It's not scary. Like, it's just fun. It's just really good fun. A good intro event for anybody that's thinking about getting into racing or riding some competitions, because like I said, it's a lot more relaxed atmosphere. And
yeah, definitely. So just with a bit more of a focus on women in trials, so what is the scene for women like in Australia at the moment, do you think? Are there many girls that ride, or is there any state that has more trials going on and more ladies? What do you think?
There's a few. It's always hard in trials to, it sort of comes and goes in waves. Actually, there's a bit of young talent about at the moment for the girls in trials. There's Lily down in South Australia. She's only like 17, and she's really keen, training really hard and riding really well. Like, she was on our last team at the Trial Nations in 2019, and she just has such a great attitude and such great family support behind her. I think she's going to go a long way. And then we've got Jenna Lupo down in Tasmania. She's in Tassie, so that's always hard because you feel a little bit isolated. It's obviously a lot more expensive for her to get over to the mainland to ride events and stuff like that. But she's definitely working her butt off. She's come from like a motocross background, so she's had a lot of challenges to overcome and learning how to do things differently and stuff like that. But I think she's really been enjoying the challenge, and she's riding really, really well. Like, she's been training really hard over the off season, and can't wait to actually catch up with her in the flesh and ride some.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think South Australia at the moment for women in all disciplines is they're doing something. There's something in the water down there. There's so many chicks that ride, so that's really cool. And do you think that the switch to like more electric bikes, do you think that that's changing the trial scene at all? And are there more people that can ride and practice now closer to town and stuff like that, or have you not seen a change?
I think it'll take a little while before we see the real changes with electric bikes. Like, the bigger size bikes are still only just starting to enter the market, really. Like, if you go to an event, you might see 1 or 2 of them at the event, but they're still not kind of very mainstream yet. the offsets and the kids electric bikes are definitely just a great thing. And I mean, even if for kids that aren't intending on going on in trial, it's just such a great place to start your kids, to get them to learn all the basics, all your clutch and, well, not clutch on the electric bikes, but all your throttle control and brake control, and learning how to really ride the bike properly before they go and throw on something that goes too fast, kind of thing. So I think the offsets, like, we were just starting to see a real lot of kids start to emerge, which is great. And yeah, lots of junior girls starting to emerge. Whether they stay in the sport or not, it's hard to say. Australia being such a big country, I think that's where it's tough for people in motorsport really to be able to afford to compete and to continue going to events, because there's always going to be a lot of travel involved. But you know, it's good to see the kids coming up, and hopefully they stay with it. And if they don't stay with it, hopefully they go on to enduro or motocross, or at least stay in motorsport.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many great riders that have a background in trials. So yeah, good point. And yeah, electric bikes, get more people on them, hopefully more options. So we'll move on now to our 7 questions that we ask all the ladies that come on to this interview. So our first question is, what was the driving force behind you becoming involved in the sport?
I would say definitely my parents. From a young age, both of my parents ride motorbikes, or have always ridden, and my brother rides as well. So I think it was just kind of like, that's what we did as a family. We went away for weekends camping and riding motorbikes. So yeah, for sure, it was it was like a family thing for me.
Yeah, I've definitely seen your dad around at events. Yeah, and he was racing the 4-day that we raced together all those years ago, wasn't he? He was racing as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he sure was. Right, B, just throwing that one out there.
Perfect. All right, what kind of challenges do you face as a woman, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one, because I really think that something that I've found is that being a woman has been such a nice advantage for me in the sport. In motorcycling, I just feel like it's been received really well. I feel like you kind of get more recognized, like it's easier because there's not as many girls. So when you do go to an event, people's like, oh, Kristie, you're here. Like, it's easier for people to recognize you and remember you, kind of thing. So I think in my situation, I feel like it's been kind of advantageous. I think just the way that we mentally process things as girls is maybe not necessarily a hindrance, but in some ways it is in sports like motorsport, where we're probably just that little bit more likely to kind of think of consequences before actions, if you know what I mean. So girls have a tendency to hold back a little bit, which, you know, stops us from getting hurt as bad, for sure. That might be some of the reasons why we don't quite, we're not really competitive at that high level like the guys are.
Yeah. Cool. What is the greatest gift that the sport has given you?
I think friendships. I've met so many awesome people through motorsport, and yeah, I wouldn't take back any of the competitions I've been to or events or anything like that. Like, I've made so many great friends, and it's a lifestyle. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that's a very common answer that we get in these series of questions, for sure. Motorcycling and friendships are a huge thing. So a little change on that. So it's quite similar, but what do you love most about our sport?
The challenges. I think I just love it, and especially I get this a lot with trial. It's such a self-challenging thing. Like, you'll be working on some technique, you know, and you'll get it in one situation, and then you shorten your run up, or you put a corner in the middle of it, and all of a sudden it's a whole different thing. But it's such a intrinsic, like, it's a self-challenge kind of thing. So I like that.
Yeah, for sure. What life skills have you developed as a result of motorcycling?
I feel like a bit of independence, I think, and that bit of discipline, I think, because I learned or got into motorcycling from such a young age, and had to look after my own bikes to a certain degree. It sort of taught me to have that kind of respect for money and that respect for my equipment, that you got to like look after your bike, otherwise you're going to be riding a piece of shit, you know. Pardon. But
yeah, I like that. That's a great answer. Okay, our second last question. I like this one. If you could write a letter to your 16-year-old self, what message would you give?
Ride more. Just ride more. Just don't let anybody tell you any different. Yeah.
Short and sweet. Be a K-dog. Ride more.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, last question. What is the most popular question you get asked about motorcycling?
I don't really know.
Do people often not know what trials is when you say that's what you do, or do the general public have an understanding of what trials riding is?
Yeah, a lot of the general public do have an understanding of what it is. You get a lot of, oh yeah, my uncle had a TY. So yeah. Yeah, and you get a lot of, like, especially at servos and stuff, when you're on the way somewhere, you get a lot of that, people kind of going, oh yeah, I used to race speedway. Like, okay, it's not a speedway bike, mate. Or how fast does it go? Not sure.
Not very. Okay. Alrighty. Well, I did also think of one other thing that we have done together in the sport, which was years ago, a friend of ours wrote a book, Rev Girl, and she did the launch in Queensland in Brisbane's Queen Street Mall. And we were both there, and you were doing a trials display in the middle of Queen Street Mall, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. That was unreal. That was such a cool experience. That was kind of organised again by Jack through Flair Riders. So Lee had written Rev Girl the book and was looking for someone to do a bit of a show for the launch, and she asked me if I could do anything. So yeah, Jack teed it up for us, got all the ramps organised, and yeah, that was such a fun day, wasn't it? Riding motorbikes in the middle of Queen Street.
I wasn't allowed to ride mine, but I did get to rev it up to get everyone's attention so they could watch you do your mad tricks. So good teamwork. Yeah. Cool. Well, it has been really, really nice chatting to you, Kristie, and yeah, to hear about the world of trials, because we haven't had a trials girl on the show yet. And yeah, it's cool, and I really fingers crossed for borders opening internationally, and so you can get over and race some more world trials and teach the girls how to go and do it, and then hopefully you'll end up with a strong team of 3 and you can have a podium or a win. That would be really cool for Australia.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you very much, Gemma. It's been awesome catching up with you again, and yeah,
and I'll see you next time I'm in Coffs.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, cheers.